Hey guys, I'm Phil Town. As I'm sure you already have seen in the news, the U.S. has recently initiated military strikes in Iran, and without getting political, man, has this ever caused an increase in conflict around the Middle East? Now, this isn't a news or politics channel, but one thing we've seen in the past week or two is that this conflict is starting to really disrupt financial markets. Now, you guys, what might be interesting to you is that while I've spent the last 4 decades of my life as an investor and a fund manager, before that, for a couple years, I was also in U.S. Army Special Forces, and so are a few of the guys in my team. So with our niche background in mind, in this video, I'm going to answer the internet's pressing questions on the Iran conflict and what it means for investors out there watching the markets. No, this isn't the start of any major conflict. This is going to stay regional to the Middle East. Iran's allies, such as they are pretty wrapped up in their own issues, and that would be in China and, of course, Russia. And Iran has surrounded itself by enemies at this point, so I think this is going to stay pretty localized. Yeah, oil prices are already heading up. They are going to try to keep the Gulf of Hormuz open, which is supplying a huge percentage of the world's oil. And of course, Iran isn't going to be shipping any oil during this conflict. That is going to pump prices. And in general, I think in the long run, as we start to see more and more monetary or monetization of the debt around the world, we will also see oil prices continue to rise. Oh man, they have a really non-intuitive impact on the stock market. If we go back to the last major world conflict in World War II, the stock market had risen from a bottom in about 1932 to a peak in about 1938. And then as the war started, it went down aggressively back down to a bottom in 1941. But as America started to industrialize for this war, the stock market came off the bottom and it didn't stop going up until about 1965. It was on a one-way ride based on all of the government spending that was happening during the war. It's very non-intuitive. The stock markets can do very well in the war. The market has been looking for a reason to crash now for at least 5 years. And you know, the whole idea of a black swan that kind of comes out of nowhere that shouldn't happen and it crashes the stock market is that you don't expect it. I mean, everybody can see this war, and to the degree that we see it, this isn't what's going to crash the stock market. It's going to be something unexpected if it goes. But I just don't know. I mean, we have so much of the market being paid for by government spending, and there's so little other places to put your money that will stay up with inflation. It's hard to see this market really crashing. Now, does that mean it's a great place to invest right now? No. I mean, it absolutely could go down, but I would say it's probably more like a 30% against 70%. Well, I think the answer to that is take a look at what the best investors in the world are doing right now. And the best one that I know of course, he just recently retired, and that's Warren Buffett. He has about $380 billion in cash right now, and it's literally an order of magnitude larger than the most he ever had just 15, 20 years ago. And I got to tell you, I'll be real frank about it, I'm quite heavily into cash in our funds as well. And I think that the reason for that is cash gives us optionality, and we're getting paid a decent interest rate on it, so we're keeping up with inflation. I would rather have that optionality right now than to buy into companies that are just massively historically overvalued. It's a really interesting phenomenon, what we do with Rule 1 style investing, what Warren Buffett's done with it all of his life, that looks like timing the market but isn't. When the market gets really expensive, we think of it as the market is greedy, and we are looking to sell our companies into that very highly priced market. And when the market gets really cheap, we think of it as fearful, right? The market's full of fear. That's when we want to be a buyer. I think it's interesting that the market itself, the prices of the market, are what kind of time us out at the right time. We end up out of the market when it's very high price, and we're able to have that kind of cash optionality to buy in when it gets cheap. Interest rates are a tough question. I'm not an expert on interest rates, but I'll tell you my gut feeling. Interest rates are being pushed in two directions, right? The United States is monetizing its debt. We have $30 trillion of debt. And by that, I mean we are printing money in order to pay for things. And that, of course, is inflationary and theoretically should drive up the price of money, right? When interest rates are the cost of money. On the other hand, we're buying our own debt internally. And then there's an unlimited supply of pretend money to buy that debt, and that should drive it down. And that tension between the obvious monetization and the inflation and the fact that we have an unlimited purse to buy the treasury bills with is what's keeping this thing in this range. And I see it staying there, really. I think we're at stasis right now. It'll probably stay there. I don't think Iran is going to last all that long. I think we're talking about a month or two, actually, simply because we and Israel went on the offensive here at a time when they are the weakest. And I don't know how they will be able to have military equipment that will survive longer than a couple of months. If that's the case, then no, this is not going to be what causes a recession. Will we have a recession? I think I can say with some degree of certainty that we will have a recession, and we have been putting it off now for so long. We're way overdue. And of course, recessions are going to get caused by some sort of black swan thing that comes out of nowhere, really, and we don't know what it will be. But I think we can say, just generally speaking, in 140-year history, yeah, we're due. Right. I mean, we are absolutely trained to look for stock market events, but the definition of an event is something that knocks the price far down below the value. So in effect, we don't have to be thinking about whether this is an event really or not. I mean, it looks like one, I agree. All we have to do is just watch the prices of companies that we want to buy. And if this is indeed a broad market event, then that wish list that I've got is going to start going on sale. So it really is sort of the proof of the pudding's in the eating. Would that be a good metaphor? It might not be, but basically the idea is we don't have to guess. It's going to drop this price of great stocks. And then we look on hindsight, yeah, that was a heck of an event. Oh man, if you haven't already nailed down a watch list or a wish list, you really want to get going on that. That is the essence of great investing, is to be prepared and then be patient and wait for this opportunity to come to you. But if you don't know what the opportunity looks like, you're going to find yourself in a position without a watch list when the market crashes and all these wonderful stocks are on sale and you don't know if they're on sale. So you don't know if it's time to buy it. So absolutely get the watch list going. And what I would do is I would say, okay, what do I already know a lot about? When I was a river guide and just starting into this, I knew a lot about guns because I was an Army veteran and had been around guns my whole life. I knew a lot about stuff like sleeping bags. I knew about the travel industry because I was working in it as a guide, and I therefore knew about the cruise ship industry because it's the same story that I was doing in the Grand Canyon. I rode a Harley-Davidson motorcycle, so I understood Harley-Davidsons. In other words, you start right where you are, and before you know it, what you are comfortable in investing in has expanded to be more companies than you will ever need. Yeah, our approach is to stay within your circle of competence and not branch out unless it's an area that you really are interested in long term. That's something you really want to know a lot about. And then, of course, fire away. But to try to outguess the stock market in the direction of a sector or an industry is a little bit of a fool's errand in the sense that you have thousands of highly paid, super smart analysts on Wall Street who are trying to do exactly the same thing. That is effectively what Wall Street does, is figure out what industries are going to boom and then rotate to those industries. And we're never going to be able to compete with that. So we should stick to our knitting, which is, what is my circle of competence? What are the companies within that circle that I really want to own? How much do I want to pay for them? And basically put those up on a bulletin board and sit down and do nothing until they go on sale. Okay, with all that said, hey you guys, thanks so much for watching. I know moments like this are obviously difficult on the world stage, and it always is worth remembering that from a market perspective, what that brings often is just volatility. And it can be volatility up, volatility down. It just means a lot of price movement, a lot of uncertainty. And what that brings is an opportunity for us, for disciplined investors. And while it's unfortunate that opportunities sometimes, they're going to emerge from periods of turmoil and even from events you may not even agree with, The truth is, it doesn't mean long-term investors should ignore them. In fact, this is when the best businesses often become available at attractive prices. And if you think about it, someone has to step up in a time of turmoil and start buying things, or the price just keeps going down. So we're really performing a valuable part of the market to step in when we know we want to own that company at that price, even if tomorrow it's 50% cheaper. So with that said, if learning how to identify these opportunities and evaluate these kinds of businesses for yourself, if that's something you'd really like to get better at, that's exactly what we teach in our 3-day investing workshop. I and all the Rule 1 coaches teach for 3 days. We're teaching Rule 1 principles entirely online, and the feedback we consistently get is that we are truly amazing. I'll leave the details down in the description if you'd like to learn more. It's an incredible class. But more importantly, I hope this video will help you bring a little perspective to what's happening out in the markets right now. And with that said, it's time to go play.